Chelsea, how's the weekend been for you so far? Hmm. All right, looks like you can hear me now.
Now I can.
Perfect, great. How's your weekend been?
Not bad. How's yours?
It's been good, productive, which is always the goal.
Oh, good. Good, good.
Great. All righty. So, yeah, I did see. Give me one second. I'm just gonna close a couple windows here. So I saw your message about Claude, so we can definitely chat about that today. And then I'm curious to know how was it posting for your first two posts this week?
It was good. I think it went well.
Nice, nice,
I'm
nice.
definitely I'm definitely not as far along in the process as I'd like to be, but I have to keep reminding myself that life is busy and, it gets in the way. So I'm just kind of moving along as I can. But getting two posts up this week was a big step. So
I agree with that, and I very much like those posts. And you did a great job leveraging the assets in terms of the visuals. They resonated well with the message, and it's all a momentum game. And it's funny, I was reminded of that myself. There's been a lot of different projects that I've been working on, Compathia being a main one. And because of that, I've actually kind of let a lot of what I was doing kind of in my other business go to the side. So I'm like, this week, let me get back up to posting. And then I was reminded that yes, I'm also starting from the beginning again now. So it's really interesting how LinkedIn works like that, because most people, I think it's actually 1.5% of people post regularly on LinkedIn that have it, and the way they term regularly is 3 times a week or more.
okay.
And so once you get to that, you'll already be in the top 1% of all users. And then when I remember the first time I heard them, like, oh, that can't be the case. But it truly is true. There's a billion, I think 1.5 billion people that use LinkedIn on a monthly basis. And it's 1.5% of those people and that's on the high end. I've heard between 1 and 1.5. So all of that to say that even there's this one creator who, her name's Sarah Chen, actually. And so she has like I think like 50,000, 60,000 followers. Similarly, I'd seen her posting very regularly. Didn't see her much in November and October. Just started posting again regularly now. And even with that amount of followers, very little engagement. Well, I was like, wow. So the key is once you start and you start to see momentum, do your best, even if it's not posting, to just take the time to comment, which is the error that I made. Really, all of my focus and energy was going into creating code, which draws from that same creative well, at least for myself. And so I can do both. And what I should have done is just make sure I was still commenting, because commenting is probably at least 50%, if not 55% of the game of growing on LinkedIn now. So that's a nice little tip for you, even on the days where you're not posting, just find 5, 10 people to comment on. Maybe just set aside 15 minutes, set a timer, scroll through your feed, things that resonate with you, and then also be intentional about also commenting on people that are outside of your niche. That's another thing that LinkedIn really likes is when you are commenting on things or engaging with people who are kind of outside of your typical circle. So, of course, we support each other by commenting on each other's posts, liking each other's posts, but they also have made it very clear that they like that added element as well. So I agree. Great first step in terms of getting those posts out. Tuesday, Thursday is a great place to start, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Excellent.
Um, when you say posting, or should I be posting, not posting, but commenting every day, 7 days a week, or more like five is okay?
I'd say as much as you can in the beginning, as much as you
Okay.
can. For sure, on the days that you are posting, and some people, what they say is they like to comment for a few minutes before they post and then a few minutes after they post. I will say that I haven't kept strict metrics, but when I was doing that, I had the most amount of engagement by far. And so I think what it does is it just kind of gets you out in front of people in general. And then once your post starts picking up momentum, it's like you have both maybe a comment that kicks off. Like I had a comment that had 1,200 views this week, which is more than the two posts that I posted combined. So it's like, it's a nice way to be able to kind of like multiply your efforts. And it's actually a lot easier to comment because all I like to do is I use Whisperflow, which is that speech to text tool that I've told you about. And then I just think if I were to read this, like what would I actually say to the person? And that just makes it super simple. I'll drop the link to Whisper Flow here. They do have a very generous free trial of 14 days. And for me, I already knew it from like probably the first 10 minutes of being in that trial that I was 100%. It's like $200 USD for the year. It's very, very, and the thing is, it works in any text entry field. So I use it to write emails now. I use it to reply to text messages because I have a Mac. And so I just send people text messages on there. They do have an iPhone version as well. And it just is infinitely better than Siri. Siri is garbage when it comes to speech to text. And you have to say, oh, exclamation mark and question mark and all these other things. So that's just my nice little hack. If it's, I just got 5 minutes, 10 minutes sitting on the couch, just open that up, start doing those comments, and it's made a big difference. So yeah, as much as you can. But yeah, now what I always say is never push yourself to do more. As soon as you start feeling that drain, that's your signal to kind of just take a pause and be like, all right, I'm gonna take it easy for a little bit. So congratulations again. Welcome to
Thank
the
you.
road to the 1%. Great. Alrighty. So I know that you wanted to chat about Claude, which is one of my absolute favorite topics, but I also just wanted to connect and see where we're at, just in general, in terms of the things that we chatted about last. I know we had quite a few different things we talked about, kind of the business setup and the
Yeah.
structure, talking about bookkeeping, spreadsheets, all that good stuff. And then what we had also talked about was, of course, the LinkedIn piece, and then what tools to be using and when. Now, just in general, with the roadmap that we laid out last meeting, where are things at for you?
Well, a couple things I wanted to ask about today was the banner. I kind of picked one that I liked, um,
Nice.
that I thought I could show you, and you could tell me how to get it onto my LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Um, I looked at the domain. So I need to have a domain page, but then also an email, right?
That is correct. So the simplest way that I have seen to do the two is because Google will allow you to purchase the domain through them. And so you can do that, and then you can tie it in with your Google Workspace account. So that's what you're looking to get is a Google Workspace account. And that's what allows you to be able to have your whatever your domain is, your email domain. So let's say I can't remember the ones that we were thinking of off the top of my head. So let's just say quietleader.com. And so if you want an at quietleader.com email, what that requires is some sort of email setup. Google is the simplest to do that from what I've seen. And there's lots of documentation on how to do that. And so for me, for all the domains I've purchased, I have bought them separately and then gone into Google Workspace and said, I have an existing domain. And then they walk you through the steps to do that.
Okay, so I think you had given me Namecheap.
Yes,
Does that sound
exactly.
right?
Yes.
So do I use that or do I use the Google Workspace?
I think you can use Namecheap. I think there's a reason why people really like Namecheap. It just connects well with other sources or other tools. GoDaddy is another popular one. Sometimes people will like switch between the different service providers to see which domain or where the domain is cheapest. I don't really ever see a big difference. It might be $1 here, $2 there. I haven't really seen it make a big difference. So yeah, Namecheap is a good one, and it gives you access to a lot of other services. So yeah, use that as your search tool to see whether or not they're available. And then once you purchase the domain, you can go to Google Workspace and get that set up separately as well.
Okay, so just purchase the domain from Namecheap and then go to Google to do the email and stuff.
You got
Okay,
it. Yeah, you
okay,
got it.
okay.
Mm,
And then I worked on some of the iHelp statements.
nice.
So maybe we can run through those. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm just slowly ticking things off.
Excellent. I love that. Making steady progress. Let's start with the banner and then let's talk about the I help statement. Go ahead and share your screen.
Okay, let's see if I can. My computer is really not running very well today.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. I find that screen sharing when you have Zoom and your computer's running slow, it tends to make it real slow. Slows it to a crawl, I find.
What are you seeing right now? Anything?
It's just loading up. It has the screen that says that you have started sharing screen and that it's going to be visible shortly. So yeah, we'll give it a sec to fire up here. Oh yeah, still taking its time. Both of our computers being nice and slow. Yeah, you definitely shared it the right way, and it's just taking its sweet time. Hmm. Still hasn't come up. Very interesting. Yep. Still hasn't come up. I've never seen it take this long. Wow. That's interesting. Okay. Maybe try stop sharing and then share again. Oh, it came up. It came up. All right. Excellent. Okay.
Is it doing anything?
So it came up for a moment, and then I know that because by the time it was firing up, you had already started like stop sharing because it was taking forever. So right now I see that it's loading up again. So yeah, maybe we'll give it a sec. Yeah, it's just starting up the sharing.
It's really annoying when technology doesn't work.
I know, right? There you go. Okay, it's loaded. Perfect. So I see the Zoom window. And then if you pivot back to, I'm guessing you probably had it open on Canva, right? Perfect. Yeah, I see it's
Yep.
loading up now. Okay, so yeah, perfect. I can see your Canvas screen now.
On computer.
Yeah, okay, I can see it now. Oh yeah, you know what? Press the that little zoom window in the bottom right corner. If you like just hit the X
Okay.
on it, then maybe it might like because I think the picture in picture on Zoom is like taxing more resources on your computer. Yeah, so close it and then that might help a little bit. All right. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, I can see the banner now.
I just went with super simple.
Nice. Yeah. And so what I like the gradient on here, and I find that one thing that I had to do is I had to kind of like test it quite a few times by uploading it and then seeing like how it kind of fits on the page. But the way that it started off here, I think it'll be off to a
Okay.
good start. So there's a couple other elements that we'll want to add, which will be some sort of call to action, which of course I know part of it is that we need to figure out what are we driving people to. So like when people are coming to your page, what action are we going to encourage them to take? Are we going to encourage them to click a link? Are we going to encourage them to send you a DM? And so that's part of one of the pieces that we can consider before we upload this. I think that the simplicity is nice. We want to see how we can also add a little bit more to spruce it up, a couple other elements. And so, in terms of like a lead magnet or some sort of call to action, and of course, this ties back to the offer, right? Is what are we hoping that when people come to your page, what are we hoping that they'll do? What are we hoping that they'll see, consider, or be inspired to do? Now, I know that we've talked a little bit about like PDF guides or things like that, but have you given any thought to some of the potential, well, yeah, for lack of a better term, lead magnets or maybe resources that people who are interested in learning more about what you do, how you achieved what you've been able to achieve, would be able to get access to.
No, I haven't thought about that.
Hmm.
I guess
Hmm.
I guess that's kind of what do I do next?
Good question. What I would say is we will look back at your offer and say, okay, what is it? Because we have a lot of really good stuff in the plan that we've developed there, and that kind of gives us the beginning of what it is that we could look at. So, first thing would be the potential for some sort of like checklist. Checklists are super simple because it gives people kind of just a guide or clarity. So, for example, the checklist that I gave you during our last meeting about these are the things that we need to do. Is like, oh, okay, well, now I have like a plan. I may not know what to do, but if I at least just start hitting some of these pieces, then I know that I'm progressing towards the goal that I'm going for. So, as an example, we could think back to okay, when you first interviewed for a position, a leadership position, nurse clinician position, and did not get it. What are some of the pieces of feedback you received? And then what things did you do in between that and the next interview? And then, of course, there was a few other attempts. And then the question that you would ask yourself is, what did I do differently that last time where it actually worked out? And what are some things that if somebody came to me to say, hey, I've been really inspired by how you've been able to make this transition. I want to also make a similar transition. Can you give me some tips on where to start, what to do, so on and so forth? Oh, and actually, you know what? I noticed why you're having a really hard time with Zoom with screen sharing is because you're using the web version of Zoom. That's why. So it's using your
Oh,
internet's resources. Yeah. So if you download the actual Zoom app and then open it on the Zoom app on your computer, then it should be a little bit better.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. We'll do that for our next call though, because it'll take you a bit to do all that. So no worries. Because it's
Yeah.
actually working a bit, it's working a bit better now,
Okay.
actually. So yeah. But anyways, yeah, so that's the first
Okay.
thing that comes to mind. And a nice simple one is an interview checklist. And the reason why an interview checklist always wins is because everybody hates interviews with very few exceptions. I actually very much like interviews, but I'm a bit weird. I've only met one other person ever who likes interviews. So it's not a very common thing. Most people don't like interviews. And so if you were to say like, yeah, some sort of quiet leader interview checklist, well, that's a bit long, but we would think of something like that. And the name of the lead magnet is very important, as is the name of the program. It's so funny, like the name of whatever you name your stuff, it actually has a huge impact on how it is that people perceive it. And so that would be one thing that we can kind of brainstorm. Syndra is also a great resource for brainstorming ideas like that as well. So that would be one thing. And
Okay.
so what we would do is you'll remember in the examples I shared with you, they have like a little arrow that says like click this link or DM me or click visit my website. So, and then actually that reminds me, one of the things we'll talk about is your website. I'm gonna get to work on that this week because now that we have a banner, or now that we'll have a banner and we have a bit of a presence on LinkedIn, now we want to start driving people somewhere. And so we'll probably reserve the last 15 minutes of the call today to let's say maybe the last 20 minutes because I can actually mock up a prototype and then we can actually start with that. So that'll be good. Okay.
And that's
So
the website is the domain.
you got it
Okay.
exactly. But we won't need the domain in the beginning. That's just when we want to officially present it out to the world that will need that. And yeah, so we can, yeah, no pressure to figure out a domain before I can start the whole website build and even launch it on a temporary domain before we get that final domain. So yeah, no pressure on that, but we can do some brainstorming as well. Great.
Okay. So should I still do go to Namecheap and save the domain, like pay for that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually funny. A lot of people
Okay.
just go ahead and and actually just purchase domains and sit on them just in case. And then there's also some people
Right.
who are in the business of purchasing domains so they can sell them to people who want them later at a very inflated price. It's very funny. The world
Oh,
of
okay.
business and making money is very diverse. Yeah. If you because you'll search up some domains that you'll be like, how is this domain $3,000? Like these ones are like $14. This is 3,000. Why? It's because a very high, like a highly sought after domain, and people will let people bid on them. Like there is also a guy who I think it was at Microsoft or Google, like or Apple, one of these very big companies who allowed their lease on the domain to lapse, and then somebody purchased it, and then they had to pay this person like a couple $1 million to get it back or something like that. So, anyways,
Wow.
so all of that to say, yes, go ahead and reserve the name of the domain because I'm
Okay.
sure as soon as you start, because this is the way that humans are, it's very funny. As soon as you start posting online about it and using that phraseology of the quiet leader lab, somebody's gonna be like, "Oh, that sounds really good. Like that sounds like something. I'm gonna purchase that." Yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
please go ahead and do that. And yeah, of
Right.
course, as you know, domains are very cheap. I think it was $14 on Namecheap if I remember correctly. So yeah.
Yeah. And you said .com is better, right? .com rather
Ideal,
than
I
.ca.
ideal, like really in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't actually really matter that much, but that's just my thing. And me being in the AI space, I'm very biased towards .ai and .com. .com just feels more official. .ca usually means that the .com was not available. So somebody else has beat you to the punch. That's just the way I interpret it. Obviously,
Okay.
not everybody's like that, but that's the way I interpret it. Yeah,
Okay.
people only care about .ca in Canada, whereas .com is
Right.
worldwide recognition. Cool.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think that with the only thing that I would recommend that we add with the banner before we upload it would be some sort of well, it could be your I help statement or something that supplements that. So let's talk about the I help statement. And yeah, also the piece that, well, one thing I will say that I have found to be very helpful with that too is using Claude for brainstorming for your I help statement.
Hmm.
And
Right.
so, yeah, so we can chat about both of those at once. So why don't we start off with walking through the examples that you had, and then we can pick one.
Okay. So I got three. The first one is I help quiet professionals lead with confidence without changing who they are. I don't love
Yep.
that one.
It has the elements that we want. It's a little lengthy, but it's a good start.
I guess they're all pretty lengthy, but I help quiet professionals lead authentically and advance confidently.
Ooh, I do like that one. Yeah, it needs to be a little bit shorter, but I do like that one. All right, next one.
I help thoughtful professionals to lead and communicate with calm confidence.
Okay, I like the ones that have the call out to quiet because thoughtful is a bit harder to quantify, but still in the right direction.
Okay, so those were the first three, but I used Lilith because I didn't know how to access Claude. So
hmm
maybe Claude has something better. I don't know.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and drop those three into the chat, and then I will show you how we would leverage Claude to actually be able to do this. So Claude is one of there's kind of the big three, if you will, in the world of large language models. And of course, large language models are ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all of these guys, they're all called large language models. And at their root, what large language models do is they just predict the next word in a series of words. That's what they do at their basis. So what that means is when you ask it a question, it's like, okay, I've been asked similar questions before, and this was like the output that we gave the last time. So I'm going to assume with 90% confidence interval that this is the what this person is looking for. Sometimes it gets it right, sometimes it literally just makes things up. The difference between Claude and ChatGPT is that Claude is much better at creative tasks. And I think I've used this analogy before, but in case I haven't, I'll say it again here. The beauty of Claude is that it's kind of like a right-brained artistic type. You know how we talk about right brain and left brain people? Claude is very right brain, whereas ChatGPT is very left brain. ChatGPT is very good at like following instructions as you give the instructions. Claude is good at saying, okay, I'm trying to anticipate your intention and you had mentioned this and this, so I'll do that, what you asked me to do, but I'm also gonna probably add in this thing here, or I might try to pull this in because it, above all, Claude just wants to be helpful. That's the main difference between Claude and ChatGPT is ChatGPT wants to provide you an answer. And whether or not it's accurate, it's willing to make things up a lot more from my experience to provide you with an answer. Whereas Claude, it really wants to be helpful, and sometimes in its quest to be helpful, it does more than you ask it to do, which sometimes is helpful, sometimes it's not. So I'll give you one really good example here. When I first started designing apps and websites, I would say, okay, this is the plan, this is what I want you to do, and I want you to just start off with this, and it will go further than what I asked it to do. And sometimes it'll not be helpful. Sometimes it'll be very helpful where I'm like, oh my goodness, this was a really good idea that you added on. I actually didn't think about that, but that is great. So one example of this was, yeah, when I was experimenting with app building, and I wanted to build an app that basically would be like a habit tracker for personal growth and development, well, professional growth and development. So it would look at, like you had the ability to track like learning how to use AI tools, participating in working groups, committees, things like that. All the things that I teach about how to transition to a higher level position, I wanted to bring them all into an app. And so I had my plan and I told it what I wanted it to do. And it actually did that, but then it kind of gave me a nice vision for where else we could take it. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is great. And then I tried to kind of start filling in the gap because I didn't give it clear instructions on those other things it opted to do on its own because I didn't ask it to do that. There was all sorts of problems with the code, and it was actually far more work for me to try to get it to work. And I'm like, well, this just would have been better if you had just listened to what I asked you to do so that we could be sequential in the way. But then there are other times where, as an example, on my website right now, I never asked it to produce a privacy policy or a terms and conditions of service, and it did that. And I was like, wow, that was actually super helpful because I'm like, because you'll go through and when you start, if you ever venture into this coding with AI, you'll have things that look like they work, but then they don't. And so that was very impressive to me where I was like, oh shoot, I totally forgot I needed to code that. I'm like, wait, it already did it for me and it made sense. I was like, huh, thank you. So that's the good example. So, anyways, with Claude, the reason why you want to use it for idea generation is because of this element of it thinking about all these other things and pulling in all these other things that you may not have necessarily asked it to do. When it comes to brainstorming, more ideas will always be better. And so you can access Claude by going to claude.ai and, and you'll have to create an account. You do have the ability to start off for free. And what they do is they give you like a certain amount of usage per week, per 24 hours for free. And then they also give you two different models that you can pick from. I'm gonna just check this here still. It's Haiku 4.5 still free. Do, 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 do. Hiring free users experience 4.5. Sorry, I'm just checking here. They have two different models, and when they first came out with this model, it was free for everybody to use on an unlimited basis. I'm just trying to see if that's still the case. Do, 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 do. Okay, so it looks like it may not be totally free, but you have generous limits. So they kind of tell you the difference here. I don't believe you'll have access to this model on a free one, and you don't actually need it. This is
Okay.
like their really powerful highest end model. But it says, it consumes your usage limits much faster. So even me with the very fancy plan I use this very sparingly. This, as they say, is your smartest for everyday tasks, and I believe these will be the only two, like I said, that you'll have access to. This is kind of a just a quick, so I'll give you an example of where you're doing this. Let's say you were writing something and you wanted to refine your writing. Let's say you didn't have access to something like Lilith. Haiku would work really well for that because it doesn't need to think much. It's more so just about shaping what you already have. For brainstorming tasks like what we're going to do here, I would recommend Sonnet 4.5. Just know that you have limits with it. The other thing that is super useful for at the $20 a month plan is you can actually hook up many different things. You can hook up your Gmail, and theoretically, you could say, I want you to look for all the emails from Timmy over the past 3 weeks, and I want you to summarize all their content and all the action
Hmm.
steps or all the things that he asked me to do. And so I personally like that. But then in the world of AI and privacy, there are people who are like staunchly against that idea, and I can understand why. For me, I'm in the camp that somebody somewhere in some office in the world has already seen most of what I pass through the internet. And so for me, convenience and being able to get what I want to get done more quickly is my highest priority. So in this instance, what we're going to do is I'm going to take the three that you listed here, and I'm going to just straight up copy them from Zoom, and then I'm going to use Whisperflow to do the following. These are three I help statements that I'm intending to use for my LinkedIn profile, but I want them to be a little bit shorter in length so that it fully shows up when I leave comments on people's posts so they can fully understand what it is that I do and who it is that I help. The business is called the Quiet Leader Lab, and it is intended to empower introverted leaders to be able to obtain leadership positions or to exercise their version of leadership in a way that is authentic to them, the way that they engage and show up in the world. I want you to give me 20 examples of I help statements that I could use that are a little bit shorter in length and use these current ones as examples. And then what we can also do, let's see, we can also then tell it which one we liked the best. That's the other thing that I would do. One thing about Whisperflow is if you click into a different box or you're not on like, yeah, I clicked on something else. That's why it didn't pop up. But fortunately, you can always just paste it in. And the one that we liked the most was this one here, right? Or did you like this one better?
Um, I didn't like the first one
Mm-hmm.
as
And
much. I guess the second or the third with thoughtful change to something else.
Okay, sounds good. So what we'll do is we'll say we like two and three the most, but want the emphasis to be on quieter introverted leaders. Our favorite options so far are options two and three, but we do want to have the focus be on quiet or introversion rather than a more generic term like thoughtful. Okay, so there we go. So this is one of the best use cases for just AI in general is iterative brainstorming because then it's going to give us 20 examples and then we're going to say, we really like these seven. Give us like 10 more like that. And then we just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. So I like this right off the bat because it ends with an alliteration. That sounds cool. This is pretty good too. I'll let you go ahead and read through that list of the first 15. Let me know what you think.
I like one
Hmm.
and two.
Hmm.
Not four.
Yeah, agree.
Number three is okay.
Hmm.
Number seven's okay. Number eight's okay. $11 is good. $15. Ooh, I like 16.
Hmm. I do like that. Okay, great. So then we'll iterate. And so one thing that I always have to remind myself, I also, so for example, like I help introverted professionals lead with quiet strength. That sounds very nice and poetic, but what does that actually mean? For me, I
Right.
have been known to, I like those types of things that sound very poetic and like philosophical and stuff like that. But really, we want to make sure that when somebody sees that, they're like, oh yeah, this is me. And so the ones that I see with that are this one here. This one kind of is still the same thing, but Confidence is something that people can relate to. So that's a bit more concrete than strength, right? Strength is a relative term depending how it's being used, but confidence means the same thing typically in every context. I help introverts lead authentically and advance confidently. That that is the most concrete one probably. And because this makes sense, because we all know fake leaders and what that means, and then advance confidently, which is leaning to the career progression, which ties in very much to even the post that you made this week. So I'd say this is probably the most concrete one so far. Quiet professionals own their leadership voice similarly, where it's a little bit fluffy, not as concrete, but still nice. Help introverted leaders advance with authenticity. That is a little bit more concrete. And then communicate their true value. That actually is concrete, but I don't know if it quite fits with what you're going for, but it's concrete enough. So what we're going to do is we'll say the options with the asterisks are the ones that we like the most. I want you to produce for each of these options above, but especially the ones with the asterisks, I want you to produce 5 more ideas that are similar in nature to each of them. All right. So then, oh yeah, this one thing here. I don't know if you can also do this on the free version, but this is the extended thinking feature. And so when you go into your options here, you have several different options. Extended thinking just basically gets it to spend more time just like contemplating. So I always like to look at how it's thinking, like its thought process here. And so it's like, okay, well, let me just recheck here. That's 4. Let me create variations of each of those. So then it tells you, here's the one that I'm looking at, and then it breaks it down more. Yeah, so not this. We don't want to use the word quiet twice. But yeah, this one we were like, it's one of the fluffier ones. So of course the ones that came through were similar to that. Okay, this one. Yeah, I do like the ones in here
Hmm.
because it really hits at that juxtaposition that you don't have to be an out there and loud leader to grow influence or build influence. So I do like this line of thinking here.
I like quiet leaders better than introverts.
I agree with that too, because yeah, introvert is a very overused term. Yeah, and this stands out much more, and it also aligns with the name of your company too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with that. So let's give it that instruction. We've decided that we are going to be using the term quiet leaders. So I want you to give me one last list of 20 options that uses that term of quiet leaders rather than introverted. Okay. Yeah. From this particular set, any of the ones that stand out to you more than some of the other ones we had up there?
Hmm.
Yeah, I kind of like the ones a little bit further up.
It's hard when there's so many options.
I know, right? Yeah. For me, usually for that reason, I'm just like, what is it? I eventually would just make it like a gut feeling decision because, yeah, Where now we're trying to like think a little bit more logically with it, and I'm getting that same kind of vibe. Where it's like, these are all kind of good, but the ones that really stood out were some of the ones up here. Yeah, let me see here. There's a couple other ones. Oh yeah, it was the ones in here that I really liked.
What about the build impact? Where is that one? I help quiet leaders build impact authentically.
I like
I
that
don't know.
one, but I know it's kind of the same. It falls into that category of how do we make it more concrete type thing.
Right.
But let's save that one here because yeah, that is probably one of the best ones that we've seen. There was one that was talking about advanced, lead genuinely and advance confidently. Mm, mm. And then I guess the other thing is, do we want to use the term leaders or professionals? Because I
Right.
think that I'm leaning towards professionals for two reasons. Number one, there are many people who are quiet leaders that would not label or identify as such because they're like, oh, they have all those assumptions, right, about what it means to be a leader. And so that's why I think, and again, we will adjust this. I've adjusted mine like 20 times before I settled on the one that I have, so we don't have to necessarily say, okay, all the chips are down on this one. But I like the idea of quiet professionals. We can, of course, like bounce back and forth between the two, but that's the reason why, because then it kind of lets people know who you're going for, right? So, say quiet professionals lead. Mm, okay, so the ideas that we like is quiet professionals, and then we like developing confidence, advancing in their careers, moving up the corporate ladder. Yeah, we're not going to use that terminology for sure, but maybe what we'll tell it is this. These are the ideas that we want included inside of whatever we're ultimately going to settle on. The idea of what we're going for is to equip professionals who believe that they cannot advance in their career or into leadership positions because of their introverted nature to be able to have the resources, skill set, as well as the strategy to be able to advance into higher level roles. Create a list of 20 names that reflect these ideas. Okay. All right, let's give this one this last whirl, and then we'll pick out the ones we like, and then I'll send them over to you in an email so you can think over them for the next little bit. Yeah, some of these are a bit too on the nose, like this one. And sometimes simple is sometimes simple is the best.
Right.
Yeah, so I'll save that one just because I mean that's exactly that hits it. That hits everything.
The only thing I don't like is it's not so much about moving into higher positions. It's more about leading in whatever position you're in, right?
Okay. So then we actually want to more so reflect the idea that it's not necessarily about moving up into higher level positions, but rather leading where you are with what you have and with who you are. Give us 20 ideas that fulfill that. And we want more ideas that leverage the term of quiet professionals versus quiet leaders, as the issue is that many of the folks that are our ideal client avatar would not see themselves as leaders. And that's what the program that we'll be offering them is going to help them be able to own and to overcome the imposter syndrome that prevents them from seeing themselves as leaders. Yeah, imposter syndrome will be a big thing that you'll definitely want to include as part of your marketing and your content. Mm, yeah, I don't like any of these ones. Mm, mm. Yeah, the this was kind of where I feel like we were closest.
Yeah, the create influence.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Create. Yeah, this is the closest for sure. Okay, let's do that. We've gone a bit far away from what we originally were going for. This set of ideas were the ones that we liked the most. I want you to give us 20 more ideas that are similar to this. Oh, and actually, you know what? This is another thing that we're going to do. We are going to go and actually just drop in your LinkedIn posts so that they can have a little bit more of an idea of what we're going for. So context is everything. So when we talk about context in the work or in the term of AI, is that AI, people think that AI is smart. AI is not smart. All AI does is it regurgitates what it has been previously trained on or exposed to. And so it's our job to build systems that provide the necessary context so that it can better understand. And we should have actually started with this. I've dropped in two LinkedIn posts that we posted this week that speak to the mission of what we're trying to accomplish. I want you to generate 15 ideas that could be used to, or that rather are harmonious and in alignment with the messaging, the ideas, and the takeaways of these posts. Yeah, there we go. This will work nicely. And I know that we were supposed to do the website stuff, but what I'll do is I'll get you to just give me a couple ideas of the types of stuff you want, and then I'll do some quick mock-ups and send them to you, and then I'll work on it in between today's call and next week's call.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Quiet leaders are quiet professionals. The idea of creating influence, and then we need a descriptor at the end there. I hope quiet leaders develop lasting influence, genuine influence. Yeah, genuine. I don't like that word. Oh, okay, these are the ones that are allowed with the posts. I like this idea. Hmm, how quiet leaders turn. Hmm, yeah, okay. Hmm, let me save this one.
What do you think of number five? Is it too non-concrete? Yeah, you said thoughtfulness was.
Yeah, yes, but then if we kind of say what that turns into, then I think that that can be our concreteness. So leverage thoughtfulness as influence. It's close, but yeah, not quite, but almost. That's like maybe like 78% there. Eat through substance, not volume.
What about 15?
Mhm. Okay, yeah, I think that that's
I don't know.
yeah, prove quiet. Yeah, that's the thing. And that's the one thing about brainstorming like this. Sometimes you just gotta let it marinate. Come down with your short list and then over the course of the day or the week, just see which one sticks out to you. That's usually what I do too. So I like the direction of these two because yeah, we've gotten pretty close now by and you can see now that the best ideas that we've gotten so far, the closest ones are after we've added the additional context of your posts. So this is a good example of how that plays out. So this idea of like quiet professionals lead through something not volume or noise is kind of a nice kind of play as well too. I do like that idea. We'd have to think a little bit more about how we would do that. But let me see events without pretending to be extroverted. Nope, definitely not. Yeah, this one's a bit too fluffy. Intention.
See, I like 10, but again, I think I lead more on the philosophical side like you do than the concrete. I'm not concrete. I'm very wishy-washy.
Yeah, I like to be, I'm more of a systems ideas thinker than, yeah, the specific details. So, yeah, that's why it usually takes me a while to come up with these for this exact same reason. So, yeah, lead with, uh, I like the idea where there was one that was talking about proving. Where did we see that again? Persistence, lead with depth. Hmm. Quiet professionals create influence through create influence through thoughtfulness. Like that's the reason why I would say that this crosses the threshold that we'd be looking for is creating influence that is concrete enough-ish. It's almost there. Create presence through authenticity, influence through substance, grow authority. Chat.
What about 18?
Develop presence authentically, develop presence through because yeah, this is one of those like buzzwords that kind of that everybody could be using these days. And so
Right.
I do like this part, develop presence through, and then we'd have to go dot 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 dot. Okay. Um, hmm. Influence through thoughtfulness, develop presence through. Let me go back to your post here. Hmm. Yeah, this line here. Yeah, I like this idea of competitive advantage. I really do like that idea of competitive advantage. Okay, so And then let me grab this other line that was here. These are the ideas that resonate the most so far. And I've selected the two lines from the post that served as takeaways that were intended to let the ideal client avatar know that we're talking to them and that this is what they can actually do with the information that they've been provided with. I want you to synthesize these ideas into one final set of 10 potential ideas that synthesize the idea that we have the ability to help quiet professionals develop leadership skills that will then turn what is typically viewed as a weakness in the leadership space of being quiet and not being as loud as others as an actual competitive advantage. Okay, let's see. I'll just get to do 10 this time so we don't have too many options. I help quiet professionals turn thoughtfulness into influence. Hmm? Uh, yeah, too fluffy. Yeah, that last set wasn't too much better. Okay. Yeah, let's mull it over a little bit more. So we'll go back. I think we had some more concrete ones that we really liked out of the original set. So that was, yeah, this one, and then mm, yeah, we like quiet leaders versus introverts. So and then this is where we had the different sets of five. Lead authentically and grow confidently. Mm. Communicate with confidence and clarity. Eh, close, but doesn't quite capture what we're actually looking to do. Mm, And then let's pick just a couple other ones. Quiet. Hmm. Grow steadily, create impact naturally. I help quiet leaders. I help quiet professionals. Oh yeah, we did. It's funny. I was going to rewrite this one here. What do you think about this one here?
The thoughtfulness one.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like it, but
Is it?
initially you thought thoughtfulness was too.
Yeah, it wasn't concrete enough, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The reason why, out of all of the ones, I feel that this one could work is because influence in the workplace is something that most people can resonate with, and it kind of plays on this idea the quiet leaders still do have influence, and that vehicle to the influence is their thoughtfulness. So, and the
Yeah, I
reason,
like the word
yeah,
thoughtfulness,
thougtfulness,
but
yeah, thoughtfulness into influence, and it also kind of rhymes as well too. So it's a little bit more sticky in people's minds. So you know what? Why don't we start with this one? And the other reason I like this is I know it'll be short enough that when you're scrolling through the feed or when you comment on people's stuff, it will show up like in its entirety. Yeah. So I like that. That will work. So yeah, let's run with that for now. And then I'm gonna drop this into Zoom. Good. I'm glad that we did land on something for now. So turn thoughtfulness into influence, transform thoughtfulness. We could also consider like competitive advantage here, but I like the thoughtfulness into influence. We will want to add a little bit more concreteness to it eventually, but I think for the time being, let's start with that. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think for me as a person,
Hmm.
um, competitive is not something that I am, but thoughtfulness is more something I am. So it's more
Hmm.
authentic, I guess. But
Hmm. Yeah. And that'll also resonate better with your audience than if that's the case. So yeah.
right.
Right, because they'll be like, yeah, if you were to ask somebody who, yeah, is very introverted by nature, probably you will oftentimes hear that thoughtfulness, consideration, patience,
Yeah.
compassion, those types of ideas, that those are things that they see as being like some of their greatest or strongest assets. And so being able to then transform that into something that allows them to achieve their goals is powerful. Okay, so yeah, let's run with that one. Perfect. So then, coming back to the banner piece, I'll show you the examples here again, just because we want to fill it out a little bit more with a few other things, and then we can just brainstorm what that might be. Let me just pull up the LinkedIn resources. Here we go. Okay. So, yeah. So we in Canva, you have the ability, you can easily just find these like curved arrows, and then you can move them however you want. And then obviously we don't have a logo right now, which is totally fine, but we want a few other elements on there. So we want what's going on with my camera? Sorry, one sec. We want the elements, or we want some sort of like headline to stand out a little bit more. So we can put the Hmm. Let me actually think about this for a sec. Let me go back to my banner because originally I did have the name of my company in my banner, but then I changed that. So obviously, because I have a pretty clear call to action, that makes it easier. And so what we can do is, let me look at we could actually probably use one of the original ideas that you had that were a little bit longer as kind of like our headline in or like a sub headline there. So we had I help quiet professionals lead with confidence without changing who they are. And I like that idea, and because we can let it be a little bit longer, we would just drop the I help piece. So we'd say showing quiet professionals how to lead with confidence without changing who they are. Something like that. I'll put that into the Zoom chat. Showing quiet professionals how to lead with confidence without changing who they are. Yeah. So we could put that as like another kind of like sub headline there. And I would actually say that the having like the quiet leader lab that actually works for now, actually. And the reason why is because we haven't like added it to your experience section yet. So that will work actually. So keep that headline that you have, add a sub headline that says showing quiet professionals how to lead with confidence without changing who they are. And then see if, and I actually do like that gradient that you picked. I know that there were a lot of other banner examples that had just a few other elements just to fill out the space a little bit. So you can see that this section here, this is the only really the only section that's not going to show up, like this far left side on the bottom corner, kind of. And so we probably want to add just a little bit more so it feels like a little bit more full, like the banner has a few more elements on it. So let me show you some examples here. Templates. Yeah, so even
I
something, oh
like
yeah,
blue.
this is the one. Yeah, this was the one you picked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay. So even, so why don't we just say blue? Or do you have filters here? Okay. Let's see if I could spell. Yeah, even just something like this that has just a few more elements on it. Let's see here. No, that's kind of techy. Oh, this. What do you think about this one?
Yep.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, let me send you the link for me. Yeah, let me customize that. Actually, you know what? Maybe I can just do it now. So yeah, I don't recommend putting your name there just because your name is already at the top of your profile. So, be quiet leader.
And we were going to go without the, I think.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I do remember. Yeah, because for the company name especially. Yeah. Quiet leader lab. And then this is where we would put the showing quiet professionals how to lead with confidence without changing who they are. And then we'll get rid of these. Probably want to use a bit of a softer font here. Mm, and we might take off. Yeah, let's do that. Take off the caps. There. It's a bit bigger. And make it not overlap. No, it's overlapping here. Bring that down a little bit to the side. Bring that down a bit more. I can probably shrink this just a smidge. Does it look like if we italicize it? Yeah, I think that looks a bit better. Nice. It'll cover up a bit of this, but I like that. What do you think?
Yep. I like the letters of the Quiet Leader Lab. I looked at a
Yeah.
lot and I didn't come up. I didn't see that one. I like it.
Yeah, it's the it's the whole so many options thing, right? Because yeah, as we started going through our list there, I'm like, yeah, I felt like we had some inspiration, but now I'm losing track of where we are. So let me go
Yeah.
ahead and drop this in the chat, and then yeah, and then we'll wrap up with that. That was nice. Took a bit longer than I expected, but I'm glad that we did get that done. So, action items coming out of this, keep doing the good work of generating those posts and then keep sending them to me. I'll be sure to take a peek at them. So, just name this
I have
properly.
one to send you. I'll send it after.
Perfect. Okay, Quiet Leader Lab banner. There you go. So you can download that and upload that. That looks nice. I do quite like that. How to lead with confidence without changing who they are. And you know what I'm probably going to do? I'm going to underline without. So don't use that version that I just sent you. I'm going to put this other version that has.
How do I save that? Like you put it in the chat, so
So you'll, if you hover over it, you should see a little download button, or at least that's how it shows up on desktop for me. But if you click it, then you should be able to see. Actually, you know what? Let me just email it to you. Let's do
thank
that.
you.
Yeah, that will
Thank you.
make it much easier. And yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, action items for you. Keep doing that good work. Send me over that post. I'll take a peek at it, and then do a little bit of work, kind of just brainstorming like your journey as you kind of already have to get to the position that you're in now, because we're going to create a lead magnet for that,
Okay.
and then I will start working on your website. And now that we have kind of all of these pieces here, well, actually, you know what? Another piece that you can think about, but don't necessarily have to get done, because this is one of those things that I feel that once we start building and we start seeing things, that it's easier instead of sitting here. Because what I was going to say is start thinking about what you want your brand colors to be and what you want kind of like the aesthetic of Quiet Leader Lab to be. But I find that instead of just sitting there looking at colors, once I start building the website, you'll have a much better idea of like, okay, no, I kind of want this to look like that. So that will be the takeaway here. Banner. Okay, so I just sent that over to you. So yeah, think a little bit, but don't spend too much brain power thinking about the colors and all that. Do think carefully about all the steps that you took. So let's say I came to you, hey Chelsea, I also want to become a nurse clinician in the next year or so. What would you recommend? Like, what are the top? What 5 steps or what 3 steps would you recommend? And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn that into a guide. And our goal for our next call is to create your lead magnet. And it'll be a lot simpler than you think, because as soon as we get the steps in on the idea, I'm going to whip out Poppy and we're going to create something that looks really pretty with your brand colors, or whatever we're going to say your brand colors are going to be for the time being. You can change them whenever you want. You're just establishing your brand. So it's not like you're locked into anything whatsoever. And then we will create a PDF that you can actually send to people, or that we can say, hey, visit my website to get access to my quiet leader checklist. We're going to call it something else, but just that. And then we're going to add the little pointy arrow thing to your banner that like encourages people to do that. In the meantime, your role or your job is to just start building more presence on LinkedIn. Start doing a little bit more commenting, or just stay consistent with your posting. And then on the days that you're not posting, or if you just have like 5 minutes here or there, just go on LinkedIn and scroll a little bit. And then just also start looking at like content that's performing well, content that people are commenting on, content that has like a lot of engagement or reposts. Just look at it and read it. Just spend a little bit more time on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is unlike any other social media platform currently out. So yeah.
It's better than all this, like
Yep.
Instagram is people just tooting their own horns all the time, and yeah,
Is by far the
I hate
best.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And that's why selling on LinkedIn is the easiest, because people are already pre-qualified, right? There's only a certain type of person that regularly spends time on LinkedIn. Usually
Right.
people trying to advance their careers, build connections that are going to help open up doors, as opposed to just pure entertainment. People don't really, a small majority of people go on LinkedIn to be entertained, but most people don't. They go there to be encouraged, connected, or to learn something. And so we want to take advantage of that. So that sounds good. All righty.
Okay.
If you have any
Perfect.
questions, shoot them over in school. The one thing that I will also well, actually, no, we'll talk about it next time. But I'm actually in the midst of like developing an app that is going to be specific for like interview coaching, which I think will actually be helpful for you too. And so we can also talk about like building solutions or products that are specific to like the problems that your ideal client avatar has. And obviously, the checklist is going to be step one of that, but we'll start talking about other ways that that can play out.
Okay.
Great.
That sounds good.
All
Thank
righty.
you.
My
Okay.
pleasure. I will get this
Okay.
uploaded into the playlist, send you the playlist, and then we'll go from there as well. If you have any questions, let me know.
Awesome. Thank
All right.
you.
Take care. Bye.
Okay.